What's going on, guys? Saber Sauce here. In this video I'm going to teach you how to make a Damascus shader effect using Unity shader graph. This won't require any code, so beginners are welcome. Real quick, before the video starts, I wanted to point out that only 0.3% of my viewers are subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe to the channel, that would be a big help. Alright, so before we start, make sure you have Unity installed. That's an important first step to make. So now we're going to create a new project. We're going to be using the universal render pipeline, so 3D URP right here. I'm going to name this Damascus shader, but you can name it whatever you want. None of this matters. So now we're going to create the project. You'll see that it takes a second to load. Once it loads, we're going to go into the project. So now I have got my thing open. To start, we're going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this shaders. And we're going to go into that. Now I'm going to create. Then go to shader graph, URP. We're going to use the unlit shader graph. I'm going to call this Damascus. And after it loads, just got to give it a second. Click on it. So now you can see we have our shader graph open. So there are a couple of important things to keep in mind here. This is where we're going to put all of our variables, which we will do so in a moment. This is the most important feature that we're going to use. We're not using any of the vertex features, but we are going to use the fragment shader. This decides what the base color is. So to start, we're going to create 3 colors. We're going to name the first one red. Second color is going to be green. Third color is going to be blue. Now, we need to create these because we're going to add them together to create any of the different colors that are in the RGB spectrum. There is one other thing we're going to add, and it's going to be a float. And I'm just going to call this smoothing. This will be important for the animation, but we're not there yet, so just don't worry about it. For starters, we're going to add, well, first of all, we're going to change the color of these. So red, if you go down here, it should be all the way red. Green should be all the way green. And blue should be all the way blue. Now we're going to drag them all into the scene. So we'll have a red, green, and blue. So we're going to add 2 different nodes. They're both going to be addition nodes. So like this. We're going to put one up here, and then we can just duplicate this and then bring it down here. So first we're going to add red and green together. So just drag red here, green here, that makes yellow. Then we're going to move this down a little bit. We're going to move the blue. Now we're going to add the blue and the yellow. This will create white. Now we're going to add this, the fragment shader. So this is just our basic color. Now we're going to add more to this now. But this is the bread and butter of how we're going to make a rainbow shader. We need to have the different colors. So we're going to start by creating 3 time nodes. Now we're not going to use the base time node. We're going to use this time node, but we're not going to use this input right here. We're actually going to be using sine time, cosine time, and we're going to use smooth delta. Now this is important because we want it to loop. We don't want the scale of our noise to be messy. So that's going to be very important. So I'm going to move these back. It's important to organize all of this because it will get a bit messy as time goes on. That one's a little bit far down, so we're going to move it up. Now we're going to add 3 different nodes. They're all going to be simple noise. So first, we're just going to do this. We're going to add sine time here. We're going to multiply this node. So we'll go to multiply. we're going to multiply this color by that noise, as you can see there. So I'm going to move this here. We're going to take this color off, multiply this by the noise, so that gets us this. This is now what we're going to add back to our color. If you are having a hard time keeping up, you can always just slow down the video, or you could also go back and forth. But I would advise that you do this with me because it's going to get very complicated. So now we're going to do the same thing that we did here for all the other nodes. So you can just control click all of these nodes. Then you should be able to duplicate them. And then we're going to, sorry, let's not do that. That's going to make things a little bit complicated. So just copy and paste this node down here. Copy and paste this node. We're going to put them roughly in the same position. Now we're going to use cosine time for the scale. And we're going to use another multiply node. Copy and paste the multiply node. Make sure to disconnect it from the other thing since we're going to connect them all here. Disconnect the green. Put the green in the noise to multiply them. Then add them back here. Now we're going to do the same thing for the blue. And copy. Yes, copy the noise. Same thing. Really, this is just repeat. If you want to go ahead and do these on your own and then come back to the video when I'm done, you can feel free. But I'm going to keep all of this in the video just in case something changes, though I don't think anything will change. So remember, this is smooth delta. And I'm going to want to multiply. So it's just all much of the same. Paste it in here. Like so. Multiply the blue and the noise. Then we're going to add them back. Go all the way up here. So the reason that all of these, they aren't looking very, there's not much motion going on here. For example, let's go to the main preview. Actually, I don't know how to zoom in. You can see that it's changing a little bit, but it's not very interesting looking. It's because we have to multiply the scale by the smoothing factor. Now, I initially called this the smoothing factor. However, it's not really smoothing anything. It's more making things less smooth. For multiply, not smoothing. Like this. Add this node in. Now we're going to multiply cosine time by the smoothing factor, so we can move this back. That. So like that. So let me check. This one was, yes, this one is cosine. Cosine time. Go here. Smoothing, go here, and this goes in here. So I'm going to set the smoothing to 10. Here you can see that it's moving back and forth, and that looks quite nice. I think I like how that looks. So now we're going to do the same thing with this node. We're going to add in the smoothing, create a multiply, and multiply them together. Now the goal of this, since sine and cosine and all of these really are not very interesting looking, the scale that it's on isn't really what we want it to be. So we're going to change the scale by multiplying it by the smoothing factor. and you can see it's already starting to look interesting. So we are definitely getting somewhere. Now, this is not going to look like a Damascus shader once we finish this part, but it will look very colorful, which is, it is partially what we want. So if you wanted to, you could technically just stop after this, but it would not look like the what we want it to look like. So now you can see it over here. It's definitely very colorful, and it doesn't look bad. As a matter of fact, you can see it right here. It's got some good colors to it, and you could change how big the colors are by changing that. So here you can clearly see the different noise patterns. The goal, since they're all roughly the same noise pattern, we want to make them look like it's moving, because if we had all of the same noise patterns, for example, if we use sine time or cosine time on all of them, they would all be moving in the same pattern, and it would just look white. There wouldn't be any color. So the color is existing because they're moving, if that makes sense. So now, here you can see we're definitely getting somewhere. The next step is what I found to work best, and that is to change the UV. So this is the UV right here, and we're just going to multiply the UV by another noise. So we're going to add in noise, simple noise, and I think we're just going to add this here. So now you can see it's very noisy. It doesn't really look good. So I'm just going to change this to say 10. And here you can see that we're definitely getting something very similar to what we want to see. So I'm going to create another simple noise here, like so. And we're going to use the same scale. You could obviously change the scale like we did previous, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm not going to change the scale of the UVs. Just know that there's a lot of modifications you could make here to change the pattern, but we're not going to be using that in this tutorial. So this is the last one that I'm plugging into the UV. Make sure to change this to 10, like that. So now you can see that we have our Damascus shader effect. So now I'm going to create a material that will use this effect. Now we can call this Damascus, like so. And make sure that this is set to unlit. It needs to be up. Or actually, we can just do this. So now we have our shader. We're going to add an object to the scene. I'm going to use a sphere just to show what it looks like. We'll set this to 20 on all axes, like so. So now we can just drag our shader onto the scene. So there's a lot of different things that we could change here. For starters, we're going to try changing this to 100. So now you can see that it's a little bit more drastic, the changes that are occurring. You could change this, you could go as high as you want. You could go to even 1000. And you can see the effect is very interesting looking. But yeah, that's the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. Feel free to comment if you have any shader ideas. This is obviously new to me. I haven't been a big shader programmer for a long time. So if you're interested in seeing more content like this, don't forget to hit the like button. And yeah, that's it. See ya.